Hi guys, welcome back to Face to Face. We are going to read chapters 6 through 10 of our book Love Does by Bob Goff. I hope you enjoyed chapters 1 through 5. If you haven't watched them yet, go down in the playlist and you'll find it. But today we're going to read chapters 6 through 10. So here we go. Sailing with Young Life. Here's a picture. Let me show you the picture. It's like fun. I have never been sailing before. Have you been sailing? Post it in the comments if you have. And where? When I was in college, I spent my summers volunteering for an organization called Young Life. People who volunteer for Young Life spend their time hanging out with high school kids on campuses. They go to football games and other events after school, and over time, tell them about who Jesus is and who God made them to be. One of my favorite things about Young Life is their summer camps. There are lots of Young Life camps that high school kids can go to. One summer, my friend Doug and I took a group of Young Life kids on a sailing trip in Canada. About a dozen kids signed up for the boat trip, and they could not have been more different from each other. The group included football players, cheerleaders, artsy kids, and rough kids, straight A students, and kids who were barely going to graduate. I'm not going to lie, the first day on the boat was more than a little awkward, as the groups of kids scrambled to find the farthest distance from each other on the boat. We set sail early in the morning, passed under the Lions Gate Bridge in Vancouver, and headed north. The strange thing about being at sea is that although you're in a relatively small space that is dry and safe, you are completely surrounded by water 1,000 feet deep. All around are waves and strong winds, and there's nowhere for you to go. Being on a small boat for a week can bring people together who otherwise might not seem to have much in common. By the third day, we had sailed most of the way up a beautiful inlet ringed by mountains and glaciers. The sun broke through the clouds, and we anchored with the breeze in our faces. At the front of the boat was a huge, colorful sail called a spinnaker. It was bigger than the whole boat. While we were at anchor, Doug and I figured out that if we hooked up a couple harnesses to the bottom of the spinnaker for the kids to sit in, they'd have quite a ride. The kids took turns sitting in the harness while the sail filled with the air, lifting them above the sea. They could soar up into the air, higher with each gust of wind, until the sail collapsed at about 20 feet and the kids would come crashing down into the water. Here's a picture. That sounds crazy. Students laughed so hard they cried, and their fun went on for hours. Suddenly, the fact that one kid was a star football player and another was unathletic and artsy didn't seem very important to anyone. I think God made it so that shared experiences, doing things together, brings people close, no matter how different they are. It's no wonder Jesus decided to spend so much time on boats with his disciples. You see, the disciples weren't football players or artists or cheerleaders, but they were equally different. Some had gone to school for many years, and others probably hadn't gone at all. Some counted money for their jobs, while others spent their days wrestling smelly fish out of a tangled net. It's easy to forget how different they all were. One time, Jesus took his disciples on a boat, and a huge storm raged all around them. The disciples were terrified and ran back to where Jesus was. They found him on a cushion, asleep. The disciples woke Jesus up in a panic. "We're going to die," they yelled. "How can you be asleep?" Jesus stood up and with the calm authority that comes only from being God, said, "Winds and waves, stop. Be peaceful." Immediately the storm stopped, and the Bible says the disciples stood in awe of Jesus. I bet those disciples were the same after that boat trip. I bet they elbowed each other and said, "Did you see that?" I wonder if that moment of being in awe of Jesus together made them less aware of each other's mistakes or successes or differences. When you're in an adventure with people, everything changes. Being surrounded by winds and waves, traveling through the beautiful world that God created, and hanging from the bottom of a huge spinnaker are the things that make our differences seem less important. When you stare at a huge mountain with sheer cliffs and waterfalls cascading thousands of feet, you forget that the person next to you smells a little funny or was mean to you once in second grade. God designed us to be this way. I think he knew that the more we stand in awe of him, the less we'll stand in judgment of each other. Chapter 7, wedding cake. Uh-oh, looks like it's going to be a good story. When Sweet Maria and I got married, we didn't have any money. Lots of people have flowers and steak at their weddings. When we asked around and found out they were too expensive, we weren't disappointed at all. We blew up 1,000 rainbow-colored balloons and served macaroni. The part of the wedding I cared about most, besides marrying Sweet Maria, of course, was the cake. At the time, we were both a part of Young Life, so we had a lot of high school friends. One of them said that his dad owned a bakery and they could make us a huge cake for next to nothing. I was sold. When we got to the wedding reception, I saw that our friend was assembling the cake in the parking lot. It seemed like kind of a strange place to be stacking a cake, but the cake itself was magnificent. 4 layers, each held up with pillars. It was the most magical cake I'd ever seen. The kind of cake you dream about. I couldn't wait for all of our guests to dig into it. Our young friend finished assembling the cake on a rolling cart and started pushing the cart across the uneven parking lot. "Oh no," my friend said, just as we walked into the reception area. A wheel on the cart caught on a small rock. In one horrible moment, the entire wedding cake fell on the ground. Splat, splat, splat. We were all part stunned, part amazed as we surveyed the damage. It was like we just had an epic cake and frosting food fight, and we didn't even get to throw any of it. The mess was remarkable. We had only a few moments before the guests arrived and no backup plan. We really needed to serve that cake. I sent Sweet Maria into the reception area and started scooping. My high school buddy and I smashed that cake back together the best we could. And then he raced to the bakery for more frosting. A couple of buckets of frosting later, we had saved our cake, kind of, and let any of our guests know this. We served it right up, pebbles and all. Like that cake, our lives are full of small rocks and pieces of asphalt. We all have those times when we're clumsy, make mistakes, hurt someone's feelings, forget to do the right thing, and lose our tempers. None of these disqualify us from being used by God to love others. Jesus somehow makes us able to serve anyways. He doesn't ignore the areas of our lives where we aren't perfect, and he wants us to help with the things we're doing wrong. What he does is use us despite those imperfections. All over the Bible are stories of Jesus spending time with people who had made really, really big mistakes. But do you know what Jesus compared his kingdom to? He said it was like a wedding party. He said the guests would be the imperfect ones because they realize just how much they need Jesus. And if we fall apart in the parking lot, Jesus will put us back together. He doesn't shake his head and start over again with someone else. He picks us back up and uses us just the way we are. Pictures in a wallet. Chapter 8. Here's something about me that you might not know. Like most grown-ups, I carry around a wallet. But unlike most grown-ups, I carry around a really, really big wallet. It's huge. I keep it in my back pocket, and sometimes when I sit down in the car, I think I'll hit my head on the roof. I use my wallet to hold all the normal stuff. My driver's license, a coupon to get some frozen yogurt, a couple of dollar bills. But do you know what makes my wallet so big? Pictures. My wallet is bursting at the seams with photographs of the people I love most. I fill my wallet with pictures of the important stuff in my life. There's no picture of my house or my car or my piggy bank. Those things aren't bad. They're just not as good as pictures of my family and friends. The photos in my wallet are a little bent and tattered, but I like knowing that they're there. As I flip through my wallet to look for some money to buy a candy bar, I often catch a glimpse of the faces I love peeking out from behind a dollar bill, and it always makes me smile. It's as if they're saying, "Get one for me too." If you ask my kids, they'll tell you that all I ever want for Christmas is pictures of them. In fact, we joke that Christmas for me is always flat Christmas because all the presents under the tree with my name on them are flat. They're usually rectangles and have framed photos hiding behind the shiny Christmas wrapping. You see, my family is what my whole life is about, and nothing is more special to me than having pictures of my wife, my kids, and even my dog to remind me of what's most important. One Christmas, my children picked up a flat present from under the Christmas tree and walked it over to me together with huge grins. "You're going to love this." they said as they excitedly handed me the package wrapped in festive paper. It was thicker than the photos I usually get, and I could feel tears welling up in my eyes already because I knew it would be another picture of some of the people I loved the most. It's a photo book, the kids cheered as I peeled back the paper wrapping. It held pictures of all the adventures we had gone on together. It was a pretty thick book. Page by page, I flipped through the book and thought about our adventures and the things we had learned together along the way. Happy tears streamed down my cheeks as I turned the last few pages of the book. When I got to the end, I was surprised to find an envelope attached inside the back cover. Inside the envelope, I found 3 letters, one from each of my kids. But the letters weren't written to me. They were written to their future kids. The letters told stories about hope and love and adventures they'd hoped they'd go on together when they had children of their own. Adam's letter read like this: Dear future kids, you'll see a lot of pictures in this book of the adventures we've gone on as a family. I can't wait to take you on adventures too. I hope you love Jesus and adventure as much as we did. Love your dad, Adam. I'm not sure if God carries a wallet, but if he does, I bet it's bursting at the seams with pictures of his kids, including you and me. Maybe as he made the whole world and put the stars in the sky to shimmer over us, he spread his pictures of us all over heaven's living room floor and thought to himself, they're going to love this place. Just like my kids wrote letters to their future kids, God also wrote us letters filled with stories of hope and love and invitations to adventures he hoped we'd go on with him. These letters and stories were all put in one book we call the Bible. I don't know what God calls it, but my guess is that he calls it a book of what he hopes we'll do together with him forever. Sometimes it's easy to forget that when God thinks about you, he gets a big smile on his face. He didn't just create us, he really, really likes us too. Just like a proud dad who wants to show everyone pictures of his kids. Maybe God is constantly calling the angels over to see pictures of us from his wallet. He tells them what we've been doing while we've been on earth and what he hopes we'll do. He's been showing pictures of you around heaven so much that I bet the corners of some of the photos are a little bent and worn. But he doesn't care, because every day and with everything you do, he gets a new picture of you for his wallet. Well, I think that's going to be it today, guys. We'll start up on chapter 9 tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed these 3 chapters today, and we'll see you next time.